I'm going to say the last 50 to 80 years, probably more or less is the time frame, is the conversion. And as we know from our research and when we measure and the metrics we use, we do see 80 to 90% of patients are underdeveloped midface. And so we know that has to do with the functional soft tissue or lack of correct stimulation. We talked about that. But this other thing, to me, plays a huge role. K2, there was a book called Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox, well-done book, kind of details this. It was only around 2007 they finally realized their K2 had some significance. And in fact, it plays a role in calcium metabolism, meaning they did studies where when they had K2 back in the diet, previously stiffened arteries became flexible again. So the point about that is if you don't have sufficient K2, you have calcium going everywhere in the body it should not go. It's depositing in the wrong places. And doing things like taking drugs for osteoporosis, bisphosphonates, that doesn't make sense if you could do a dietary change and reestablish the normal calcium metabolism. So it has this role in osteocalcin, how bone is managed. And literally, I think every woman should be on that, particularly in the peri-postmenopausal time frame, and I don't think they are. And because that's so much more profound, I think, in the physiology of that. What Dr. Price, Weston Price, he found, he basically stopped filling teeth in his practice at one point. He just put people on a reliable supply, rich, fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, K2, and he found remarkably that cavities repaired themselves. That's how profound it is. So the teeth are a reservoir of calcium. And just as the body can take calcium out of bone if it chooses to do so, to do something else with it, the body can choose to take calcium out of teeth and demineralize teeth. Yes, we know there's a bacterial component. That's the theory that we've anchored ourselves to for 100 or more years. But there's this other interesting factor. You can't ignore the evidence that Weston Price discovered that if you wanted to decrease the prevalence of decay, I think you would be wise to introduce DAK2 back into your diet. That's the way I would look at that. Now, our diets have become much, much more contaminated, if you will, with sugar. Sugar is put in everything, and we have an increased taste for it, and they adulterate foods with sugar for no reason other than they think make people feel better and want more of it. But I don't think the answer of decay is totally explained just with the issue of sugar in the diet producing acid from bacteria. And of course, you look at these other tribal populations, he noted the same thing, that they had no decay. They had beautiful jaws, beautiful faces, straight teeth, no decay. Amazing difference, right, between what we experience in our culture today. Even though we think decay is sort of on the decline, there are other reasons for that. But my concern is with facial growth, airway, and jaw development, I think it's like a no-lose, all upside. And I would add to that, that vitamin D is so prevalent that we now look at studies that show that probably 70 to 80% of us are vitamin D deficient. Vitamin D is a player in almost every system in the body, over 300 different enzyme systems. It plays a role in immunity and recovery and regeneration. It's in everything, and we don't have the time in the sun or the oils on our skin to make vitamin D. You are deficient unless you take a supplement. The only way you could synthesize enough vitamin D in your skin is if you were walking, say at the latitude of Florida in a bathing suit 30 minutes every day at noon. You might get enough. Well, who of us can do that? So vitamin D is a huge deficient state. That alone, we need to address that. I think we're starting to. Mainstream physicians are measuring vitamin D. I understand that if you go into the ER, they will usually give you a high dose of vitamin D, just assuming that you're deficient, to help recovery, help immune system, help rejuvenation and so on, repair. But it's the whole synergy of vitamin D3, vitamin K2, and usually you get it as a complex of K1 and K2, but it's K2 that you want with vitamin D and vitamin A, all the fat soluble.